Hi, my name is Kara Calipson. I am the Stormwater Coordinator for Ritu Associates, and I've been working with Upper Lake Hawk Township on developing and implementing their stormwater program. And today, this presentation, I'm going to talk about what is stormwater, why the township is implementing a stormwater program. I'm going to talk about the federal and state regulations that require the township to address stormwater issues, how this impacts Upper Lake Hawk Township, the role that the Upper Lake Hawk Township Municipal Authority will play in implementing the stormwater program. I'm going to talk about stormwater fees and stormwater billing and collection. And then if you have any questions after you have viewed the presentation, you can attend a public meeting that will occur in the spring of 2023, or you can call the township. So what is stormwater? Really, it's any type of precipitation, such as rain, snow, or even melting snow that falls onto the ground surface and discharges into our local streams. And stormwater runoff picks up as it flows across the ground surface. It can pick up a lot of um, pollution, including trash, manure, nutrients such as phosphorus and nitrogen, bacteria. And so over time, the amount of stormwater pollutants that have entered our local streams have impaired local stream quality. And you can see by the photographs, there's some obvious instances where stormwater pollution is happening. So in large parking lots, you can see the rainbow color of petroleum as it's, mixing with water and entering the stormwater system, as well as sediment will turn our local streams muddy. And there are several streams in the area that are called Muddy Run. And then as well as picking up any type of trash or litter that is on the ground surface. And so that's what stormwater runoff is. And it's managed now by a series of facilities that as a whole are called the Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System. And so we call that the MS4 system. And that's a name that was developed by EPA, the Federal Environmental Protection Agency, and it is referenced in the federal law as the Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System. And so it includes all of the stormwater inlets that you see on roadways and in some yard areas, the pipes that are carrying stormwater, but also the ground features such as grass swales and detention basins. And so anything that is collecting and conveying this stormwater runoff and discharging it into local streams is part of the municipal storm sewer system. And the designation of it being a separate storm sewer system is really in relation to older systems that were actually combined with the sanitary sewer system. So for instance, Lancaster City, there are significant areas where the stormwater system is actually part of the sanitary sewage system. And the problem with this is that during significant storm events, there's so much stormwater runoff getting to the sewage treatment plant that it reaches the capacity, and a lot of untreated sewage then overflows directly into the Conestoga River. And this is just the way a lot of the systems were constructed in older cities. So, Lancaster, Harrisburg, Philadelphia, a lot of older cities have combined systems. And so those types of systems have another set of regulations to try and separate the stormwater from the sanitary sewer. But during small storm events, that stormwater is treated in the sewage treatment plant. In a separate storm sewer system, none of the stormwater is treated before it gets discharged into local creeks. So therefore, any type of pollution that the stormwater is carrying from traveling across the ground surface is getting discharged directly into the local streams. And so this is what the concern is now with reducing that type of stormwater pollution, as opposed to the traditional goal of stormwater management was really to reduce flooding and protect property. And so when stormwater regulations were developed in the 1980s, it was really about collecting and diverting all of this stormwater runoff to downstream areas as quickly as possible to get it away from, the built environment. But now stormwater regulations are really focused on reducing flooding as well as reducing stormwater pollution to protect water quality. And so why is the township implementing a program? Well, there are federal and state laws that require Upper Lake Hawk Township to reduce stormwater pollution. And Pennsylvania enacted the Clean Streams Law in 1937. And this law prohibits discharge that pollutes streams. So it can be really any type of pollution. And it was primarily enacted to address raw sewage being discharged into local streams, as well as industrial waste. In addition, the Federal Clean Water Act was enacted in 1974, and then the Water Quality Act was added in 1987. And the 1974 Clean Water Act started regulating point source discharges of stormwater and industrial waste and sewage. So the Federal Clean Water Act originally regulated point source discharges from sewage systems and industrial uses. So you had sewage treatment plants that were just discharging raw waste directly into a stream prior to the Clean Water Act, as well as industrial processes discharging a lot of their liquid waste directly into streams. And that was the purpose of the Clean Water Act in 1974. However, stormwater was added to the Clean Water Act in 1987 through the Water Quality Act, and it was determined that stormwater runoff was a big contributor to water quality issues. In addition to those federal and state regulations, in 2010, the EPA developed the Chesapeake Bay TMDL, and TMDL stands for Total Maximum Daily Load. And this was a threshold in the Chesapeake Bay of the maximum amount of nitrogen, phosphorus, and sediment that the bay could handle and still support aquatic life. And the current pollutant load to the Chesapeake Bay well exceeds this maximum threshold. And so there are requirements put upon all of the states, including Pennsylvania, that drain into the Chesapeake Bay watershed to reduce sediment, phosphorus, and nitrogen. So that's just an added level of regulation for Upper Lake Hawk Township and really all of the Lancaster County municipalities, since the entire county does drain into the Chesapeake Bay. The regulations really started affecting Upper Lake Hawk Township in 2003 when the MS4 program, or the stormwater program, became required for small municipalities that have a designated urbanized area. And so Upper Lake Hawk Township has a urbanized area primarily in the Route 23 corridor where there is a lot of development. The municipality has had a stormwater permit since 2003, and the current MS4 permit cycle started at 2018 and will a new permit will be issued in 2023. So the permit is issued in 5-year cycles, and the township has to renew their permit every 5 years. And the permit does have new requirements every time it's issued. So we are anticipating another level of requirements to be addressed when the next permit is issued. And so what are the MS4 program requirements? Beginning in 2003, the township was required to implement minimum control measures in 6 categories. So they have to educate the public on the concerns with stormwater and what activities the community can do to reduce stormwater pollution. The second requirement is to promote public participation in stormwater and water quality activities, such as, coming to public meetings, asking questions about what they can do to reduce stormwater pollution, volunteer with local watershed groups. And this minimum control measure also requires the township to participate in more regional water quality efforts. So the township does participate at the county level by being part of the Lancaster County Clean Water Consortium, attending training events hosted by other environmental organizations. And in Lancaster County, there are numerous environmental organizations that are focused on water quality. And so the public participation aspect is twofold. The township should promote participation by the residents and business owners in the community, but their staff should also participate in more regional efforts. The third minimum control measure is illicit discharge detection and elimination. And this is really the responsibility of the township staff to make sure that there's no illegal dumping of any type of illicit discharges into the stormwater system. And an illicit discharge is categorized basically anything that is not stormwater runoff. So there's no dumping of paint or any other substance into the stormwater system. You can't change your oil and dump your oil into the system. That is specifically prohibited in the township's ordinances. However, other things that would be considered illicit discharges would be grass clippings getting into the system, leaves from, raking leaves in the fall. You don't want to pile them on top of the stormwater inlet because the nitrogen and phosphorus loads in that vegetative material does contribute to stormwater pollution, as well as have an opportunity to clog the system. The fourth minimum control measure is construction site runoff control, and this is an activity that is primarily met by the Lancaster County Conservation District. So for new development projects where there's earth moving activities, there are controls to make sure that none of the disturbed sediment and ground surface, none of that is getting into the stormwater system. The post-construction stormwater management control measure really requires the township to make sure that all of the stormwater facilities that have been installed in the township continue to be operated and maintained so that they function as designed. So all of the stormwater detention basins, infiltration trenches, swales that have been installed throughout the township should be inspected either by the landowner or township staff to ensure that they are functioning as designed. And the final control measure is pollution prevention and good housekeeping. And this requires township staff to train their employees and administrators on the stormwater management program and to make sure that all activities that the public works and township staff are engaging in are performed in a way to minimize and prevent stormwater pollution. So when the township plows snow or spreads salt or, does any road line painting or even paving, they have to do it in a way to protect stormwater. So that might mean to put up barriers at a stormwater inlet during road paving to make sure that none of that bituminous material gets into the stormwater system. So these 6 minimum control measures were really the primary components of the MS4 permit from 2003 to the current permit that started in 2018. However, in 2018, the requirements really expanded in a way that made it much more costly for the township to pay to comply with the program elements. So in 2018, the township, the current permit, to get the current permit, they had to develop a pollutant reduction plan as well as a total maximum daily load plan. The pollutant reduction plan really outlines the existing pollutant load that is occurring in the township and then identifies projects to show that the township is going to reduce sediment by 10% between 2018 and 2023. So it's really a plan that requires the township to implement projects and reduce stormwater pollution. And they have to do this in addition to meeting all of the minimum control measures. So the DEP regulation requires sediment to be reduced by 10%, but it also required phosphorus to be reduced by 5% and nitrogen to be reduced by 3%. However, the regulation was written that if the township meets the sediment reduction, then they will have assumed to have met the nitrogen and phosphorus. And this plan is really for this 5-year permit term only. And so when the next permit is issued, there will be additional requirements for reducing these pollutants. The total maximum daily load plan. So as discussed previously for the entire Chesapeake Bay watershed, DEP developed a total maximum daily load plan for the watershed for this tributary to the Mill Creek that is shown in this image, and the watershed to this tributary is outlined in red. And so the tributary is kind of this 3-pronged series of streams that flows south from Route 23, south of Route 23, and just north of West Eby Road. So if you can picture, Newport Road, you see there's 2 small segments of the stream that are crossed by Newport Road, and then this other tributary just travels north. I guess that's Creek Hill Road. And the urbanized area, or the area that is regulated by this MS4 permit, is this red hatched area. And this green hatched area is really agricultural area in the urbanized area. The problem with the urbanized area mapping is it was done based on US Census data, and so it's not very accurate at the municipal level scale. So you see buildings that are actually should be considered urbanized area that have not been included in the mapping, and that's really out of the control of the township and even the state. That is that is a boundary line that is developed by the federal government based on the US Census. And this urbanized area boundary was established based on the 2010 census. And so there should be a new boundary established based on the 2020 census. So we do not know at this moment whether the new boundary line will incorporate some of this existing development that has not been mapped correctly. Anyway, so you can see there are a lot of regulations on the township to reduce stormwater pollution. So how do all of these impact Upper Laycock Township? Well, it has been a great burden for Upper Laycock Township to meet the requirements of the permit. It's an unfunded mandate, so the township does not get any money to implement a stormwater management program or do stormwater projects. So between 2003 and the present time, Upper Laycock Township just relied on the general fund to pay for stormwater costs, and the general fund is funded by taxpayers. And so all of the minimum control measures and annual reporting that is required by the permit was kind of paid for through the general fund. Also, the development of a pollutant reduction plan and the TMDL plan, that plan development was paid for through the general fund. Because the 2018 permit cycle now requires the township to actually implement projects that are very costly to show a 10% sediment reduction. The costs to implement the stormwater program have greatly increased. And, you know, the overall goal of the program is to improve water quality, and the most cost-effective way for the municipality to reduce sediment pollution is to stabilize stream banks. And so the township is expecting that they will have to do a stream restoration project to meet the requirements of their stormwater program every 5 years. And then there are some other costs that are developed or required to manage the stormwater system. There's, the series of inlets and pipes. They're aging, and the township really doesn't know the condition of a lot of the stormwater pipes that they have, as well as flooding concerns and just the expectation of the increasing regulation and requirements that are going to be required by the township to comply with the regulations. So it's a big impact. The stormwater requirements have been a huge impact on Upper Laycock Township. And there are a lot of services that the township pays for through the general fund and through taxpayer money. And those services include maintaining all the roads and bridges, providing public safety through the police, fire, and ambulance services, providing recreation opportunities, controlling land development and growth, enforcing their subdivision and land development and zoning ordinances. And so the township understands and believes that stormwater management should be paid for equally by all landowners. And the township used to have an authority or be involved with an authority that was called the Leola Sewer Authority. And that authority owned and operated the sewer and water system since the 1980s. And the name was changed to the Upper Laycock Township Municipal Authority in 2020 so that it could take on the role of incorporating stormwater management into their services, their current services of sewer and water systems. And this is the authorities in Upper Laycock, the authority in Upper Laycock Township, as well as authorities in other municipalities, are increasingly taking on stormwater management as another utility to manage They have experience sending bills out. They have experience operating and maintaining the system, and stormwater management is becoming so regulated that it seems like a logical next step to incorporate the stormwater management system into an authority. And so some of the responsibilities that the authority, also known as ULTMA for Upper Lake Hawk Township Municipal Authority, will take on. So they will be responsible to operate and maintain the stormwater structures. And that would be the MS4 system, which would be the inlets, pipes, basins, swales, end walls, manholes, anything that is collecting and conveying stormwater runoff. They will take on ownership of all of the facilities in the township, road rights of way, as well as in private easements that are adjacent to the township rights of way, where a failure of a component or structure would cause roadway flooding. So the township will make sure that if the township's stormwater system is connected to a private system, that there will be no concern with a private system being maintained and causing flooding. So the township will take over ownership or operation and maintenance of some private facilities close to the public rights of way. And then all of the stormwater facilities within PennDOT right of way, the state road system, as well as privately owned facilities on private developments, those facilities will remain the responsibility of PennDOT or the private landowner. And so in addition to just operating and maintaining their structures, the authority will repair and replace deteriorating pipes and public basins as needed. They'll administer all of the minimum control measures and administrative tasks required to comply with the MS4 permit. They'll construct all of the projects required through the pollutant reduction and TMDL plans, and they will just outline a long-term plan to prioritize and fund all of these activities and projects. This is just a map of the township's GIS mapping system that really identifies their stormwater system and all of the stormwater systems in the municipality. They do have it color coded by owner. So the orange facilities would be the owned by the municipality. The red facilities are privately owned, and then the yellow facilities are owned by PennDOT in the state. And so the township has all of their facilities mapped for the entire township and has a clear understanding of who is responsible for the maintenance of each system. So when you look at, what it's going to cost to fund a stormwater program, the township is looking at a 5-year capital improvements plan. And so they're developing a preliminary list of projects that they would like to address over the next 5 years. So they're looking at stream restoration projects so that they can comply with the MS4 permit. They would like to take an inventory of the condition of the existing MS4 system by televising the pipes to identify problems and areas where they're going to need to repair or replace deteriorating pipes. And they are going to be working on this plan through 2022. So how is Upper Lake Hawk Township going to pay for, managing stormwater and implementing their stormwater program? Well, stormwater fees are becoming increasingly common throughout the United States. You can see by the map, and this was through 2020, that there were 1,851 stormwater authorities and utilities that charged a fee in the country. 58 of these are in Pennsylvania, and they've adopted a fee. One of the most important things about a stormwater fee is that it is charged to all landowners in the municipality, including tax-exempt properties. So schools, churches, and hospitals are required to pay stormwater fees. This is not a tax, and so they are not exempt from paying the fee. Just like these tax-exempt properties do have to pay water and sewer bills, stormwater is now going to be added as a utility, and as such, there will be a stormwater fee for that. So all landowners in the municipality will now be contributing to paying the fee, which will lower the cost for everyone. And stormwater fees typically range from $4 to $10 per ERU per month. Now, an ERU, which I will explain in over the course of the next slides, that's an equivalent residential unit. So if you're a single family parcel, you're typically considered to have one residential unit. So single family units or parcels will pay, average across the country will pay $4 to $10 per ERU per month. And that's looking at it on a national level. And so how do we go about establishing what that cost is going to be? Well, it's really based on the amount of impervious area on a property. And an impervious area is considered to be a hard surface. So it will be roads, driveways, parking lots, patios. They all are considered to be impervious area, and they all are preventing rain or stormwater from infiltrating into the ground. So in areas that are, ag areas, in forests, in meadows, a lot of rain that falls to the ground is actually soaks into the ground surface, and so you don't get a lot of stormwater runoff. However, from a big parking lot that during a rainstorm, you can see the stormwater, it just flows across the surface. And so the amount of impervious surface is really directly related to the amount of the fee you're going to pay. And this is really the most equitable way to determine what the stormwater fees will be for parcels. And so the larger the impervious area you have, the larger the impact on stream quality, and the higher your stormwater fee should be. And this is a map of an area in Upper Lake Hawk Township where aerial mapping was used to digitize the impervious area, which are identified in pink. So, obviously in the commercial industrial areas, you have large areas of impervious area. And in some of the more rural areas, you can see where the buildings and driveways are. And then the large areas of ag area are not considered impervious, obviously. So to get into the details of calculating the fee, typically when you're looking at land uses, for stormwater fees, you're looking at the single family residential parcels, which typically make up a majority of the land uses in a township. And then you look at the non-single family, which is basically everything that isn't single family. So in Upper Lake Hawk Township, there's 1,960 single family parcels. And to calculate the average impervious area of a single family lot, we took a sampling, a 1% and 5% sample of random sample of impervious area, and the township determined that the average impervious area was 4,800 square feet. So one equivalent residential unit is calculated to be 4,800 square feet. All single family parcels will have one ERU. For the non-single family parcels, and there are 682 of them, the number of ERUs is going to be based on the impervious area of the property. So for example, if there's 48,000 square feet of impervious area on a property, you divide that by 4,800, which is one ERU, and you would get 10 ERUs. So based on the calculation of one ERU as 4,800 square feet. The total ERUs in the township is calculated to be 9,288. So we, as the township stormwater committee and ULTMA, has calculated a stormwater fee to be $6 per ERU per month. And this was the number determined that would be able to sufficiently fund the stormwater management program on an annual basis. And so when you're looking at individual parcels, for all single family residential parcels, one ERU is 4,800 square feet, will be $6 a month, and you'll be billed $72 a year. This is a fixed fee. It's not going to increase if you add impervious area to your property. So if you are expanding your driveway, or if you're putting in a pool, a deck, a patio, any type of impervious surface, a shed, your fee will not go up because you've added impervious area. You're a single family lot, you have a fixed fee. For non-single family parcels, your fee will be based on the impervious area. So, for example, if you're an industrial parcel and you have 4.4 acres of impervious area, that 4.4 acres is 191,664 square feet. If you divide that by 4,800 square feet, which is, again, equal to one equivalent residential unit, you end up with 39.9 ERUs. So the fee for that lot would be 39.9 times $6 a month, would be $239 a month, or $2,872 a year. So that is how the stormwater fee is calculated. All properties with impervious area contribute to stormwater runoff. So all properties should contribute to the management of stormwater. And so we looked at how many tax exempt parcels there are in the township, and there are 65, and the total impervious area for those tax exempt parcels is 55 acres, which would convert to 499 ERUs, and so they will contribute $35,937 a year. So if these tax exempt parcels were not required to pay a stormwater fee, the costs to manage the stormwater runoff from these properties would become a burden to all of the other landowners. And so it's more equitable to include the tax exempt parcels to contribute to a stormwater fee, since the impervious area on these properties does contribute significantly to stormwater runoff. And these are just pie charts to show the breakdown of parcel count by category in the township. So as you can see, there's 1,960 single family residential parcels, and that is like a majority of the township parcels. There's 411 non-single family, non-agriculture, and we broke out in the non-single family, we broke out agricultural properties. So there's 179 ag properties. And then there are 92 properties that have less than 500 square foot of impervious area, and they will be exempt from paying a stormwater fee because there's so little impervious area included on those lots. But if you look at the total ERUs by category, so while the single family residential lots make up the majority of the number of parcels, it's the non-single family, non-agricultural that really make up the biggest category for impervious area. And then agriculture and single family, the impervious area for both of those looks pretty similar, even though there are a lot more single family parcels than ag parcels. So stormwater runoff is the responsibility of all of these land uses, and everyone is required to contribute to the management of stormwater. So I'm going to talk about stormwater credits for single-family residential properties, and there will be no credits offered for single-family residential parcels. Because you are paying 1 ERU and $6 a month, that is a minimal payment, and you'll have a $72 bill. All single-family property owners will pay 1 ERU, regardless of the actual amount of the impervious area on the property. And because it's the minimum amount of payment for the stormwater fee, there will be no credits offered for single-family users. This will streamline the administrative burden for the authority, and it reduce overall administrative costs for the authority. Imagine if the township had to offer credits or inspect, every time somebody had a rain barrel or installed a rain garden or put in an infiltration trench on their single family property. Administratively, it's too high of a burden. And if you do receive a bill in error, just give the township a call. If you're not the landowner, or if you've been identified as a landowner with a single family parcel, or the owner of a parcel, a commercial parcel that you don't own, please call the township and we can get that figured out. But there will be no credits offered for the single family residential parcels. For billing, a separate stormwater bill will be mailed to all property owners. The bills will be mailed annually starting in January of 2023, and the township is taking its time in 2022 to conduct public outreach and hold public meetings so that the residents and community members are aware of the upcoming requirements. And for landowners who are not single family landowners, to give them time to submit credit and appeal applications as soon as possible so that things run a little bit smoothly at the beginning in 2023. If you have any questions, you can always call the township. Their phone number is here, and they also have a website where there is information available. They will probably direct the questions to me. So give me a call if you have questions about the bill. Otherwise, thank you for listening to the presentation.